Unblockable, unstoppable, and undeniable. Traits used to describe two men at the pinnacle of their position in the National Football League. Yes, I'm talking about Myles Garrett and TJ Watt. Both absolutely fantastic Defensive Player of the Year contenders, but despite their unquestionable dominance in their league, there is quite a load of controversy surrounding just who is better. Hello everyone, this is The Pocket Passer. I'm your host Randy White, and I hope all of you are having a fantastic day. I know I am, because we are talking about football, baby, and what can be better than that? And more specifically, we're talking about pass rushers. Not just pass rushers, the two best pass rushers in the NFL today, Myles Garrett and TJ Watt. Both Defensive Player of the Year contenders from last year. Myles Garrett, of course, the one that took home the award during the NFL honors ceremony, but who should it have been? We're going to decide that today with some very solid and in-depth film analysis on these two guys to break down exactly who I think is better. Now, of course, you guys are more than allowed to take home your own opinions after this analysis. I think the analysis is going to be relatively open-ended because both these guys are amazing, but we're going to go ahead and jump into that right now. Let's start with Myles Garrett film and analyze exactly why it is that he is so exceptional. First thing I want to point out with Myles Garrett is he's probably the fastest off the ball pass rusher in the NFL in terms of exploding off the ball as soon as it is snapped. His timing is nearly perfect every single play. He explodes off the ball and then he uses his power to push past offensive tackles and get into the backfield. He's incredibly explosive, likely the most explosive pass rusher in the league. A great example of that would be this play right here. Ball gets snapped, bang, Myles Garrett is already rushing. Left tackle's trying to get out there to meet him in his wide stance. And now Garrett's just gonna swipe down in that left hand. He misses, but he still uses his speed and his power to drive the tackle back despite not having perfect hand placement. You're going to see this tackle is able to get under and get his hands in Myles Garrett's ribcage, but he's so far off balance by this point because Garrett was so fast off the ball and is so powerful that he's able to bend and drive around the corner and gets his hand on the ball and forces this failed play by the Titans offense, eventually recovered by Derrick Henry. Another great example of that speed here on this play. You're going to see ball get snapped, and by the time Joe Burrow even catches the ball, Myles Garrett's a full 2 yards deep in the backfield. The left tackle having to shuffle back very quickly to try and react. It's too late. Garrett's already past his midsection. Now he's got to lunge and strike the shoulder pads. Joe Mixon whiffs on the chip, and Myles Garrett's legs are so exceptionally strong that he's able to keep his balance, dip down, drop his shoulder underneath the tackle's pad level, bend the corner, and hit Burrow as he's trying to throw, making even this simple check down to the running back impossible to hit accurately, and it goes incomplete. Just exceptional. And that's why, by the way, it's very important to recognize that when Steelers fans argue that the pressures that Myles Garrett provides are just imaginary stats that don't really affect the game, that right there is a perfect example of a pressure affecting the game. Those are not imaginary stats. They affect the quarterback. Sometimes they're even hits, and they force incomplete passes, rushed reads, and even turnovers very frequently. And Myles Garrett forced several turnovers with his pressures this year. So the idea that that's some imaginary stat that makes him not deserving a Defensive Player of the Year is a ridiculous argument. He is exceptional. They're not almost gotchas. They force mistakes and they kill drives. Now let's jump into this TJ Watt film. But before I do, please consider subscribing and leaving a like on this video if you've enjoyed it so far. Now, back to the video. Now for the analysis on TJ Watt. He's not as consistently fast off the ball as Myles Garrett, and he's not as powerful as Myles Garrett. He's exceptional at both of those things, but he's not as good as Myles Garrett. So how is he the only NFL player in the history of the league to lead the league in sacks in 3 separate seasons? Well, it's because although he lacks in those two categories, lacks isn't the right word, he's exceptional, but not as good as Myles Garrett, he makes up for it with his fantastic hand placement. You'll see it in each and every one of these clips. He is able to consistently knock away the hands of offensive linemen. He's still fast around the corner. He showcases excellent bend and balance as he rounds corners to get to the quarterback. He's very quick and agile with his hands especially, and he keeps offensive linemen away from his center mass using his superb hand placement. This play is a fantastic example. You're going to see TJ Watt creep inside. Now, typically he rushes to the outside. This is a little bit of a tendency breaker. You're going to see him take his right hand and swipe at the right tackle's left hand, and now he has leveraged himself inside. By the time the right tackle adjusts and gets hands on, it is much too late. Now, credit to Brock Purdy here for standing in, TJ Watt running full speed at him. Brock Purdy makes an incredible throw in between the zone for a complete pass to Brandon Ayuk. But this is an exceptional play by TJ Watt, knocking away the hand from the right tackle, getting inside, and getting his hands in Brock Purdy's face and making this throw as difficult as possible. Just an exceptional throw by Brock Purdy under pressure. Here's another excellent example of that hand placement. You're going to see he's explosive off the ball, not quite as much as Myles Garrett, but he is explosive, gets in a full stride before the ball hits Jimmy Garoppolo's hand, and now he's going to get upfield, swipe down on that upfield hand of the right tackles, dip his shoulder to lower his pad height, making it that much more difficult for the right tackle to actually make good contact on TJ Watt's body. He rounds the corner, wraps up Jimmy Garoppolo, and takes him to the ground for a sack. Both of these guys also make exceptional plays in run defense, and it's why you'll see most teams run away from these guys. They do not like running to the side that Myles Garrett or TJ Watt are playing on. You're going to see here the 49ers make a crucial mistake of running to the side Myles Garrett is on, and even though Trent Williams is the one blocking him, it's not going to go in their favor. Trent Williams is going to have the leverage advantage on Myles Garrett, but he is going to be so explosive off the ball. He gets inside of Trent Williams and then uses his agility and explosiveness to plant and become the first person to make contact on Christian McCaffrey. Now, granted, a lot of great play here, but Myles Garrett screws this entire play up. Now they fill and the run play gets completely blown up. And Myles Garrett, a big part of that, forcing Trent Williams to wash down so far inside, and he makes the hit anyway. Here's TJ Watt simply overpowering a tight end, forcing him a full 3 yards into the backfield, squeezing the run lane and giving Nick Chubb nowhere to go with the ball, creating a loss of yards on this play. Just exceptional, blowing off the ball, forcing the tight end into the backfield and giving Nick Chubb nowhere to cut. These guys are unstoppable. They both force bad cutbacks from running backs. They blow up plays in the backfield by forcing linemen and tight ends into the path the running back should be going into. They blow up pass plays. They're in the backfield consistently. They are unblockable. They are unstoppable. There's a reason they're at the pinnacle of their position. If right now you're saying to me, well, Randy, that's great, but who's better? Isn't that the point of the video? Kinda. Yeah, I do have a pick on who's better. The point of this video was to emphasize how exceptional both of these players were and to give both of them their flowers. I'm not here to demean or diminish either player. They're both fantastic. If I had to pick one, I would go TJ Watt, and I do think TJ Watt should have won Defensive Player of the Year. The numbers don't lie. It's his third time leading the league in sacks. He's the only player ever to do that. I think that speaks volumes. He should have been Defensive Player of the Year. Having 5 more sacks than Myles Garrett is a pretty massive deal. I think he's a better overall pass rusher because his fundamental skills are better. If you think Myles Garrett's better, I am perfectly okay with that. His power and his speed off the ball is exceptional. It's unmatched. And if you think that's the difference maker that puts him over the top, I can't argue with that. I personally prefer the technique and attention to detail that TJ Watt seems to have. His hand placement is more consistently better than Myles Garrett's. He's able to swipe hands off of tackles more, and I think that makes him more unblockable because he's better at keeping offensive linemen off his center mass, which is the true way to stop a pass rusher. If you can get your hands inside as an offensive lineman and really control the leverage of the defensive lineman, or get your hands inside, if you can get your hands inside the defensive lineman and really control where that defensive lineman is going, that's how you stop them. I think it's easier to do that to Myles Garrett, although still very difficult. It is easier to do it to Garrett than the TJ Watt. And if your argument is, well, Myles Garrett's pass rush win rate is better, keep in mind that these are stats that are controlled by tracking chips put in the shoulder pads of these NFL players. So we're not actually talking about who's winning reps. It has to do with getting within a certain proximity of the quarterback within 2.5 seconds of the snap. I think that's a very subjective stat, although obviously the metrics they're using are objective. It's not someone using their eyeballs to determine who won a rep. It's seeing how close someone got to a player, which I don't think always tells the full picture. So maybe Myles Garrett would still have a higher win rate with a different metric being used, but keep in mind that the metric that is being used does not tell the whole story. There's a lot more to it than just a pass rush win rate, which is kind of arbitrarily determined based on tracking data as opposed to real, genuine film breakdown being done and genuine analysis. So keep that in mind when you use that stat. I do think it's a useful stat, but it shouldn't be your end all be all when you're using these debates. Both these guys are exceptional. I'm going with TJ Watt. Speaking of exceptional, I've got a ton of other videos on this channel. So if you're interested in my content, you might want to click on this video right here, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.